Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And if you're joining for the first time, this is part of our e-commerce series for which we meet every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. We pick one solution or the vendor. We review them independently. And we always have an expert panel that is willing to share their insights and wisdom. So for today, we are going to be reviewing a platform called Zentail, which is a very exciting platform. It's very well known in the SMB space. So we are going to have a lot of fun doing that. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's intro. I'll start with my intro. If you don't know me, I am your host, Sam Gupta, principal with Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm, and everything that we do, e-commerce is going to be at the heart of it. On that note, I am going to move to Phil for his intro.
Hi, Sam. Hi, everybody. I'm Phil Coerper, Managing Director of Ringling Business Solutions. We help executive leadership teams align their digital transformation strategy with their core business strategy. And I've come to you after several decades in the C-suite, implementing a lot of these types of platforms. So we're really looking forward to the panel tonight.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Phil. Robert, can I move to you next for your intro, if you don't mind?
Sure. My name is Robert Brown. I'm principal of Robert Brown E-commerce Consultancy. I specialize in helping small to medium-sized businesses streamline and implement the best in e-commerce.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Robert. And if you're in the audience if you have any questions or comments, make sure you guys are going to be commenting those because our panelists are going to be reviewing them. And we will make sure that you get your answers. In fact, we try to cover during the show. If you cannot get to them during the show, we'll make sure that you receive your answers. On that note, I am going to start with a quick briefing, and then we'll open up for the commentary from Phil and Robert. So if you guys don't know what Zentail is, and one of the things that we typically do as part of our these reviews is we like to identify the real position in the architecture. Where do they fit, and are they really sticking to who they really are in the architecture? Because the more streamlined and aligned they are going to be, the better product experience you are going to get as a customer. So for us, the focus is really, really important, and we try to look at focus from many different perspectives, including their product strategy, the corporate strategy, the acquisition strategy, whatever is available publicly. We want to explore that, and we want to look at whether they are really being consistent with what they are claiming. So Zentail, in my mind, and Robert and Phil, you can challenge me if you like. This is an open forum. So in my mind, they are really, and by the way, I like Zentail a lot, to be honest. And the reason for that is last week when we reviewed the other solution, they weren't as clear in terms of what they were really in the architecture. They were not as clear as I find Zentail from their marketing positioning, from their product perspective. So they really help with that multi-channel strategy. They are going to be helping you in the integration with all of those multi-channel. They are going to have a lot of different PIM functionality. Obviously, that's going to be super critical for the e-commerce merchants, especially when we talk about the smaller e-commerce merchants that are going to be roughly $5-ish million. I think that's their play. And one of the advantages that you have of the Zentail platform is going to be that you don't have to maintain that product data. You have centralized way of maintaining the product data, and sometimes it could be a nightmare when you have 20 different marketplaces. They have their own rules, and if you are going to be maintaining that manually, that's really, really, really hard to get that centralized view across the channels. On that note, I am going to open up for Robert or Phil. If you have any comments, I can take those, or I can move through the slides.
I think we lost Phil momentarily, but I think when we're taking a look at any one of these platforms, it's always good to understand exactly what the company is trying to do. It's more than just let me start selling as many places as possible, because what is the work entailed to actually do that? So if I have a product, I have product data, what data is going to go where and what additional work do I have to have? Am I going to have, it's part of the strategy of e-commerce strategy. Am I going to price it differently on one marketplace versus another? Am I going to have kits? Am I going to have bundles? What am I going to have my own warehouse? Am I going to have 3PL? Those are the kinds of things that you want to start thinking about when evaluating these products. And I think that's some of the stuff that we're going to go through today.
Could not agree more. Thank you so much, Robert, for that insight. And I think, Phil is running into challenges, so I don't know if he will be back. But hopefully he is going to be back. So I think it's going to be just us. Okay, so I am moving along with the slides, and Robert, obviously you can comment at any point of time. So here they are saying built by online sellers who have been around the block. Zentail is today's premier listing automation platform. And I like the way they have worded their own positioning. A lot of companies last time we reviewed, and they were talking about, e-commerce operations platform. I don't know what that means, to be honest. Okay. Here they are being extremely clear that I am the listing automation platform, and that's who they really are. And they are saying we help brands and authorized resellers expand to newer channels, and which is right as well. If you look at their product, the capabilities, and see whether Zentail is right for you. Okay, marketing hype. Automatically list everywhere. You have many different places. So you are going to have Walmart, Amazon, Newegg, Facebook. What I find really interesting here is going to be that this, I don't know, Robert, and maybe you can probably provide a little more insight there overall, because the PIM functionality can be all over the place as well, in my experience, when I look at many different platforms. So typically the role of PIM is that you need to have the centralized product management platform where you are publishing the product data even to your e-commerce. So I don't know if Zentail is going to have all of those capabilities. Let's say if the Zentail is really the platform to control that centralized product data and then publish it to Shopify in BigCommerce as well. Now, not a lot of platforms can do that. And in this case, it seems that the Zentail is going to be the controller of the information, and it's going to be publishing not only to the marketplaces, but also to the e-commerce platform. And that's a key distinction that I think the e-commerce merchant need to know, where PIM actually fits in the architecture. So Robert, what would you say to that?
So this is contrary to the architecture that Shopify talks about, because we've reviewed Shopify before. So everything is entered into Zentail, and it has an API connection to Amazon, Newegg, Walmart, Shopify, Facebook, Google, and it disperses that information to all of them. And it keeps track of when those sales are. And one of the things that they do is they do not upload the entire catalog when a sale occurs on, say, a 15-minute schedule. Some platforms do that. Instead, they actually push out when there is a delta. So your catalog actually stays more up to date, so you don't get that oversold position as often.
Obviously, so event-driven then, Robert, is what you're saying. The API calls are event-driven, if you will?
Yes, they are.
Sam, just so you know, we had a lightning strike and we're out of power at this point. So I'm on my pad. I'll try to stick with you as long as I can. And if the power comes back on, I'll jump on the main system again for you.
That's completely fine. And I don't know if the volume is a problem at my end or your end. The volume is not coming as high, but that's okay. I think we can manage, Phil. So don't stress. If the power is out, it's out, I guess. I don't know what we can do about it. Okay. So getting back to the conversation. So Robert and Phil, basically, when I think of the architecture, for me, I'm always thinking about the source of truth, right? Now, the source of truth could be multiple systems. It's not that it needs to be only one system, but for one data set, there needs to be a clear identification of source of truth, right? The rest of the systems in the architecture are going to be the consumer of that information. So my understanding, and I don't know what Shopify says, obviously Shopify is going to say what is best for them because everybody is trying to sell their product, right? But if you review these things independently or the objectively, then obviously you need to look at the vendor agnostic architecture. What makes most sense for e-commerce business? That's what we are trying to gather here, right? So in my mind, the PIM functionality, the reason why PIM exists in the architecture is because none of the other systems, even the e-commerce or the ERP platforms, they are not really designed to store the product data, for example, product images. And again, when we are talking about the marketing specific data, because the other systems are not going to care for all of that. And that's where PIM actually fits in the architecture. So to your comment, marketplaces, Zentail is going to do an amazing job that it is actually going to be publishing this data to marketplaces. But where does it get these SKU numbers from? So in your, let's say if you have an e-commerce platform, it could be Shopify, BigCommerce. I don't care what that is, okay? So we have the e-commerce platform, we have the PIM platform in the architecture. Let's say you might not have ERP, you might be using simply the accounting system. So you don't have to worry about at least that, right? So let's say if you have e-commerce, you have your PIM. So who is going to be the consumer of, let's say, the SKU number? Who holds control of the SKU number and anything and everything that goes along with the SKU number? And then is Shopify going to be consuming that, or is PIM going to be consuming that, Robert?
So in this case, for a visual, this is a hub and spoke setup. So the hub or the controller or the primary information is going to be the PIM. It's going to be Zentail. So all the information, the SKUs and the details about that SKU are going to be maintained in Zentail, and they're going to be pushed out to any of the platforms consuming that for sale. So Facebook, Google, Shopify, whatever. Does that make sense? So that way, the merchandising team only has to maintain that data in one place, and that would be in Zentail.
Okay, so basically in this particular case, the Shopify is going to be consumer of the product information, and they are going to be operating based on whatever Zentail is telling them, at least from the product data perspective. They might have additional things related to the product when it comes to the commercial transaction. Zentail is not going to be keeping all of that financial information. That is going to be residing in Shopify. But from the architecture clarity perspective, Zentail is going to be the main source of the product data, and anything and everything that is going to be utilized for product across the channels, and then that is going to be publishing it to Shopify, and Shopify may augment it with the additional data as it relates to e-commerce, and it might publish to any other channels wherever they want, and they are going to be augmenting channel-specific information. Would you agree with that, Robert?
Yes.
Okay. Phil, do you have any comment? I know that you had mentioned the event-driven architecture. That's slightly different overall, but when we are looking at and I don't know, in the engagements that you have worked in, I don't know if you have used the PIM. So I would like to get your insights in terms of what was the source of truth, and which data sets were captured inside PIM versus e-commerce.
Right. So yeah, what I meant by that is just the differentiation between an API that's making a call every X minutes versus an API that has the functionality that when there's something that's different, that then they call the information to align it. And I consider that kind of an event-driven API type of setup, which is very advanced for this in my experience. I mean, usually that's not what I've seen, and I believe that's what Robert was clarifying. Yeah, I'm used to the when someone gets to the point of investing in a PIM and having that type of information, of having that be source of truth, it pretty much as Robert described it. What I'd be interested in is the challenge that I've seen with that, of where, for example, a picture or maybe it's the way something is organized needs to be different based on the different customers, if you will, of that information. So if the picture needs to be sized one way for Amazon and a different way for Walmart, how does that functionality work in order to link the correct picture with the correct storefront? Because I've seen that as a challenge on systems like this, where the PIM, if you will, or this platform is the source of truth.
and I want to make sure that we are clear with one distinction. So you mentioned customer, and sometimes customer could mean the individual customer. I think you were referring to channel as a customer. So
Channel, yeah, the storefront,
Yeah.
the receiver of the information, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. Any other comments, guys, or I'm actually gonna move on to the other slides. So here we have some capabilities, and I just like the way Zentail has positioned them, to be honest. Okay, they are very, very, very clear overall in terms of their capabilities. So if you look at the way they are positioning their platform, they are saying multi-channel overview. That's what they really do. One central catalog and the command center, and that's exactly what you wanted, Phil, when you were describing that. Product data, smart type, bulk actions, cloning. Again, these are baby features if you look at some of the advanced platforms, such as ERP, but for PIM, that's a big deal. Now, we are talking about things like listing. ASIN management could be a big deal. Kits and bundles, I am going to ask you guys in terms of how you have seen that working, because every platform in the architecture is going to have some sort of kit or bundle. So how do you sort of move across the architecture? When e-commerce is going to have its own kits, ERP is going to have its own kits, and now these guys are talking about their kits. So who is source of authority? And is kits going to be part of your SKU and bundles as well? If you're bundling that, I can see some problems from the pricing perspective. So I don't know. I would like to get your insights in terms of what you guys have seen when PIM is actually doing kits and bundles.
Well, I go ERP on this one. If it's a physical distinction between the product, I'm going to want to try to drive source of truth back to where the physical product is being managed on the ERP side. But it also, I may not be understanding fully what they mean by kits and bundles here as well. So is it packaging? Are they two distinct SKUs, and they're just they're just packaging in a way so that a customer can get extra things in a carton, for example? I'm not real clear on what they mean. Robert, maybe you might have a different thought about that.
Yeah. So in this case, the distinction between a kit and a bundle for them is, think of a drum set. All right. So with the drum set, you're going to have a snare drum and a bass drum and some cymbals and a couple of other things. They're going to consider that a kit. All right. So it's going to have a single SKU, but a bunch of boxes that go with it. And you have to be able to identify that in the warehouse. So when the pickers go to pull that and make sure that it gets shipped, that all the boxes that go with that kit go with it. Right. So single SKU, multiple boxes. So a bundle is going to be, say, 5 patch cords. So it may have a separate SKU. It depends on the individual company, how they set it up, but it's going to be an original SKU, but then it's going to be multiple of that same SKU. And so they allow the ability to do those two separate things because you need to be able to track that, right? So if inventory loses one of the, they can't sell that bundle if they've only got 4 cords.
So guys, this is where I think you are going to lose me, okay? And the reason why you are going to lose me is because, I was talking about their positioning, that they're really crystal clear in terms of what they are trying to do. And now when PIM actually reaches the warehouse, okay, I'm not too sure about that now. Okay, because now you are getting into the operations. And I guess, Phil might agree with me, overall that, okay, if your warehouse's processes are going to be controlled inside PIM, then you are getting into the operational boundary. So for a smaller shop, that might be okay. But, are you now going to do pick, pack, and ship inside your PIM? There's no way.
Well, I think what we're doing here is we're confusing two different pieces of functionality, right? So the PIM itself is just the information for that SKU. So you've got SKU 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got the title. You've got the short description, the long description, the images for it, the pricing for it. That's the PIM functionality, and that's what's going to be dispersed out to the different sales channels. All I'm talking about is the difference between a kit and a bundle, because you do have that SKU for that drum set, right? So here's this kit. I'm selling a drum set. It's got 5 boxes with it. I just need to make sure that if one of those boxes, if we send that SKU down to the operation knows, and this is going to be the picking, packing functionality later on in the operation, they know this SKU has these 5 boxes. If I don't have those 5 boxes, if I can't find box number 5, we need to cancel that order. And somehow that information needs to get back up through the system to the folks, the operations folks and the customer service folks, to make sure that the customer knows, oh, sorry, we thought we had that box. We do not. We can't sell it.
Right, and I think where I land on this one is there's no doubt that the front end, the PIM, whatever you want to call the platform up front, needs to know that. Right, they need to know what's in that kit, and a drum kit is actually called a drum kit. What's in that kit, and whether there's availability. If that functionality needs to be on the front end, then it needs to know that. And the relationships, the product masters, the item masters that may be living in the ERP needs to be aligned, and there needs to be APIs between the two. I think where I was going, and maybe where Sam was going too, is, well, where's the source of truth and the true functionality of that from an inventory management standpoint? And that's where my experience would be that would live in an ERP more than it would live in the front end of the system.
Yeah, I think once you get to the level of an ERP, that's going to be a source of truth. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I think it depends on the organization's maturity, whether they're at that level or not. So if you look at Zentail, they have basic WMS functionality, basic warehouse functionality, just to get that growing company moving forward. But they do integrate with more sophisticated WMS systems for that organization that is more mature and doesn't want to go backwards using their system.
So just to be clear, and that's where I don't like it. When you are basically overdoing what you are supposed to do, in my mind, if you're a PIM, just be PIM and be the multi-channel management platform, because there is a lot more that can be done in the multi-channel, management platform itself. And the way I would like to think about this one, and in my mind, is, okay, you are going to have a SKU. SKU is going to have a little bit of marketing information, because the marketing information is not going to be kept inside ERP. It's a horrible place to keep the marketing information inside ERP. So anything that goes along with that, you were talking about the short images, the long images. I have 15,000 images that I need to send to 15,000, platforms. ERP is not the place. Don't keep it in ERP, okay? But any of the operational information, inventory information, that has to come from your accounting inventory system, or if you have WMS system, the boundary of WMS system is different. So here you have a lot more data that belongs to PIM. The PIM data is very different in general. That is your marketing information. That is the presentation, the front end, the way Phil is trying to describe. There is a clear separation between how the front end and back end functionality is supposed to work. So moving right along, and we'll open up.
This is really an important one, Sam. So just one more quick point on this, because I think Robert made the point in kind of in between what he was saying is there's a journey component of this that the customers, and I mean the buyers of this software, really need to think about. If they're very early in their journey and they don't have a back end inventory system, some of that basic warehouse functionality, even though it's not really scalable, maybe long term, but it can certainly be a bridge for them as they're starting to grow. I think what's important is they realize that they're stretching the typical functionality of that front end PIM system as they scale their business. At some point, they're going to need a proper back end system.
So honestly speaking, Phil, in my mind, I would probably go for some other add-on that is slightly better on Shopify, as opposed to asking my PIM to do my operational management. In my mind, that's not the right pattern overall, the way the architecture should be laid out. Even if I'm $5 million company, you might want to get, let's say, WMS add-on, because then e-commerce needs to be collaborating. E-commerce control far more operational and the your financial data than your PIM is supposed to be carrying. The PIM is not supposed to be carrying your operational financial data. That would be my take on this. Robert,
I think you're right, but I think there's some companies that might use this as a bridge. I prefer your answer, by the way.
Yeah, I think you're focusing on the PIM aspect. I think Phil was right. There is a journey, and we have to realize that people are going to get to this point at different points in their journey. And so for them, they're going to take a look at whatever they currently have in place, and does Zentail allow them to up their game? And by adding their PIM functionality, does it, they may have multiple marketplaces, multiple places that they sell, that they are probably, if they're really early in their journey, they're probably just doing it with Excel uploads, which is really painful. And so they're looking at Zentail and going, okay, I can still maintain that custom data that I have on each platform in Zentail. Their PIM functionality allows me to do that. And I can continue to sell on these platforms with less resource, so I can then allocate that person to doing other tasks. So I can then continue to tweak my sales on each platform, doing A/B testing and improving the content, so I can continue to get the best conversions possible. Some of the things that there are definitely some things that Zentail is not the key player in. They are not, the ERP. They are not the financial system. They are not a, core warehouse management system. So they're taking that PIM data and they're dispersing it for you. And I think they probably, that PIM functionality is really that step up for a lot of players, because a lot of players, they just take the vendor information and they just send it everywhere. So everybody gets the same stuff and they're not customizing it. They may modify their prices, but when you have the ability to actually tweak on the platform to get the most out of that particular platform, that's when you're starting to make some big changes.
Okay, amazing, guys. So moving right along on the slide. So here, if you compare, they have done some comparison with Channel Advisor as well, and they seem to be claiming a lot of different functionality. They are talking about the automatic product categorization. And again, I'm not too sure how true this is. We are going to be reviewing some of their product slides, and we are going to verify if they really have that. AI PIM technology, again, for the SMB, I'm not too sure how relevant that is going to be. AI could be all over the place as well. Sometimes it could be in very sophisticated capabilities, but for the average SMB, I don't know how much you need that. Then you have the cross-channel product data translation. That's a key functionality that you need to have, and seems like they're claiming Channel Advisor does not have that. We are going to review them as well in the future. But I would think that, most of the platforms are probably going to support that, especially if you're a multi-channel platform. Here, this is how their Skew Screen looks. And the Skew Screen is going to have very similar feeling as the Skew banner, because again, this is very channel specific Skew that you are trying to create. So here you have the Skew, the UPC, and then you have the smart type, the Amazon item type, is FBA or not. Again, that's going to be a distinction there if you're publishing on Amazon. And then you have the item price condition and the eBay condition. So again, the way this setup is going to be done is they are allowing you to specify enough data so that they can publish on multiple platforms. That's the intent of this configuration. So they need enough information to be able to publish on multiple channels that they'll be managing for you. Moving right along here. So here they are talking about a lot of different things, such as, hazmat regulation that is going to be applicable in certain industries. So they allow, and again, a lot of different channels are probably going to be asking for that. So when you are going to be looking at your listings, that's where you are going to be requiring all of that information. That's why Zentail needs to know all of that, as an input when you are looking at your Skew screen. When you look at the pricing, obviously there is, a lot of configuration overall from the pricing perspective, and this is the centralized tracking that you need to have. If you don't have that, then you are probably going to be losing a lot of money. So I like the way, you can set up the pricing for different channels. And by the way, you have a lot of different control. For example, let's say if you have missing price on anything, that could actually impact your conversion rate. So the platform can alert you that, you are missing a price there. Moving right along. So Skew Conversion, and they have many different scenarios in which you might have multiple SKUs. One example could be that you just have a different ASIN, and they have a functionality called alias skew. So it's going to be the same skew that is going to be used as the child skew. So you are basically cloning, you're renaming the skew. It's not necessarily, I don't know how to describe this. I mean, the metrics inventory functionality that is going to be supported in slightly sophisticated systems. But here you are literally copying the skew and you are creating an alias. A lot of systems support the copying, but they don't call it alias. But the way the functionality, that's what I have seen on their slides. They literally copy and that becomes your alias. That's a very different functionality than the actual, skew alias, you might have concepts such as vendor cross reference in the ERP world. That's a very different piece of functionality than simply copying an SKU and calling it something else. Here, you also have another way of copying the SKU, but in this particular case, you are going to have different pricing, and that's why you would create the alias. Again, I like it a lot, to be honest, because you are going to be utilizing the different SKU for the different channels. You're going to have different pricing. So obviously that's a key piece of functionality. Otherwise, you are going to be maintaining a lot more data that goes at the item level, at the SKU level. So that's where this functionality is going to be super handy. So I kind of like it.
My question when I saw this, Sam, was if you change something on the reference SKU level, does it blow the changes through the copied SKUs? Or do you have to go and maintain the multiple copied SKUs?
Honestly speaking, that's a good question. And the way I have seen these screens, so I don't know. And we are going to review some more screens and we will see if we can address that question and we have enough information to be able to
so the reason that you're going to have some of these aliases, or sometimes they call them shadows, is because you're targeting very specific markets with the same item. So you may actually change keywords in that listing for that alias, but you still only have the same inventory.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with what Sam said. Just it's a really nice technique to have different pricing for different, storefronts. I mean, it gives you some really nice flexibility that I liked as well. I was just wondering about the maintenance of it, because once you start having different versions of things,
right,
there has to be a methodology for saying I'm going to update it.
Yep.
Could not agree more. And Phil, by the way, that's a great catch. So we are going to look at some of the screens and we are going to verify if that is going to be possible. Otherwise, it's a nightmare in general. So great point there. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, so this is how and this is where my problem is, and all of these platforms. So let's say if I have my Zentail, I have my Skewbanner, I have my Shopify, I have 25 other platforms. Each of them are claiming that they can do pick, pack, ship. Okay, they probably are going to have warehouse functionality. So as the e-commerce owner, my challenge always is, okay, how are these systems going to work together? That is always my challenge. Which system is doing what? And let's say if you are going to be utilizing WMS from your Skewbanner, PIM from your Zentail. So sometimes you are not really utilizing the functionality that you are buying. So that's where I don't like when the system tries to do too many things, because it becomes very confusing. Okay, who you are. So here, as you can see, and I agree with your points as well, that in my architecture, let's say if I have just the Shopify and Zentail, I'm using Shopify for my e-commerce, I'm using Zentail for PIM and WMS, and I am on QuickBooks. Great, no problem. But typically, you are going to require 15 different systems if you have this lean system to manage all of that e-commerce operations. And that's what we see in our customer base. That's what they do. And it becomes very, very, very confusing to control that inventory and the warehouse operations. So here they have a lot of different things. And this is where I don't like this. Okay, this is way too much, that they are trying to do. So in my mind, when I am looking at the PIM or multi-channel management functionality, I am looking for just the channel integration, the channel management, be really, really good at that. And that's what I like to see in a platform. Here, they can do ship, they can send to warehouse, and I will struggle with this architecture, to be honest. Moving right along. Here, they have a lot of different routing information, so they can send to 3PLs, which is sort of neat piece of functionality. But again, how those 25 systems are going to work together will be my struggle when I'm designing the architecture. I don't know. Maybe you guys have different experience, but I will definitely struggle with that.
Yeah, what I had trouble trying to figure out on these was how much of this is reportable information. You need something. Someone needs to know versus an actual transactional functionality. And these do look like transactional functionality to me, to your point. But some of them might just be simply that we want Amazon to know that it got back ordered. We just want reportable information coming through the platform.
When you talk to these systems, I mean, they are going to say that obviously I can report, but typically their reporting is going to be extremely limited to that channel specific functionality. That's what they are really good at. They are not really supposed to be your ERP or WMS system. So that's where my challenge always is in the architecture. Okay, moving right along with some more information here. They have a lot of different things. For example, require signature, purchase insurance, which is neat for smaller e-commerce firms. You have tracking numbers. So this is definitely way beyond what I would expect in the multi-channel platform, as well as your PIM functionality. That's where I struggle with the architectural clarity. And in my experience, our customers, I mean, when we talk to them, they struggle with this as well.
So some of this, like the signature required, makes complete sense to me, because if the source of truth is going to be Zentail, I've entered in the product in there, and I know that this is a $4,000 keyboard. I know that I want to make sure that it's not just dumped on somebody's front porch, that we actually get a signature for it. Now, how that integrates, they may have this functionality for those, slowly growing and maybe don't have the budget for a WMS and full-blown shipping program. I'm not quite sure how the integrations, like you pointed out, how the integrations work specifically with a WMS or like one of the shipping vendors.
Yeah, and that's where I guess, overall, I will still struggle with the architectural clarity, just because it's all over the place. I mean, see, if you're using Zentail and QuickBooks, I don't know whether you can run a business, to be honest. Simply on Zentail, you definitely would require some other systems. Zentail is not really designed to run your business. It's a great, PIM and multi-channel management platform. But again, let's say if you have a Skewbanner, so Skewbanner is going to be competitor of Zentail, but that's not how they both are positioning themselves. One is positioning themselves as the e-commerce operations platform. This guy is positioning themselves as multi-channel listing platform. So again, who are you? Are you multi-channel or are you the e-commerce operations? So that's where I would struggle. Here, if you look at the product information management functionality, so here they are talking about the smart types mapping. Wonderful. I love it. Okay, so product cloning, quick edit, custom catalog views, comprehensive item specifics, archived SKUs, custom product labels. I just love all of this because, that's their play. That's where they should be really shining, provide me the depth there. I absolutely love it. And, as you can see, the way it is laid out is really clear. Now, let's look at some of the other, things. Listing management. That's their core. Okay, that's what they are trying to do. That's their bread and butter. So here they are saying variations and groups. Absolutely amazing. Okay, async creation, easy list, channel overrides. Wonderful, fascinating piece of functionality. That's what you need. Okay, channel error reporting, massive. Bulk editing, listing splits, channel error resolution, auto sync listing, desired SEO, async listing, wonderful. Okay, UPC exemption, renewed certified refurbished support, great. Listing status dashboard, again, wonderful. Clean, neat piece of functionality. Now, let's look at some more. Now, this is where order management. Now, they are using this for order management as well. So I like algorithmic repricing. I like Facebook daily deals because that's very channel specific information. I also like Amazon business pricing. I like follow by box, channel price overrides. Wonderful. Love it. Schedule sales and promotions, map support. Wonderful. Everything channel specific, right? Now, some more here. You have the Amazon Marketplace, Amazon International, eBay. So these are different channels that they are trying to attack. Facebook Shops, Facebook Daily Deals, Instagram Shopping, Google Shopping, and obviously they have Open API as well. This is wonderful. I absolutely love it because this is what I am buying for. This is my multi-channel functionality. So this is all their feature sheet, right? Now, here's my challenge. So now when I correlate with how they are positioning their marketing, now if I compare that with these screens, when they are trying to do pick, pack, ship, I get lost. Okay. So if you are the multi-channel platform, just be multi-channel platform and be PIM because that's who you are. Don't try to overextend yourself because you are not going to be good at that. And then I will have problems with the architecture, to be honest. So that would be my challenge. I am happy to be challenged.
I'm not so much going to challenge that, but if you go back to those 3 slides, were those all of the feature comparison slides?
Yeah.
Because there was only one feature, and it's the open API that didn't exist on all 4 versions of the system. Everything's blue checks except for open APIs. I almost felt like there should be one more page. There's got to be more differentiation between these 4, the start of the growth, the Amazon Unlimited, and the Enterprise and API, right?
So just to be clear, Phil, so open APIs are available in Amazon Unlimited. It's also available in Enterprise. It's
right.
Also it's available in the limited manner in growth. Typically, they don't want to open APIs to starters. And the reason most companies don't open APIs to starter because they have tendency to hurt themselves. Okay. They just don't have as much development background. So typically your test environment, the API, the development, that is typically offered in the enterprise version, which is obviously going to be far more expensive. You go to HubSpot, Salesforce, that's what you are going to get. They don't provide that development experience in the base version.
I completely get that, but that wasn't quite my point. My point is that all 4 versions have all the functionality. Usually a chart like this, when you get to the second half of the chart, you start showing the differences between these. There's blue checks across everything.
Right, Phil. And the only differentiation is that integration and the development, right? And which I agree, to be honest, with their strategy. I'll tell you why. Because even the smaller shops, they are going to be listed on all of the channels. That's why they are offering all of that. So I understand your perspective. But from the shopper's perspective, even the smallest of the smallest, they are not going to be listing only on 5 channels. They typically are attacking as many as possible. And that's why they are offering all of that. But let's say if you want to do any sort of development integration, that's where you want to pay more.
I'm just saying there's got to be an additional differentiation between Amazon Unlimited and Enterprise, or why would anybody buy it? You get the same functionality.
Well, the difference really there is for the Amazon Unlimited, it's going to be the company that considers himself mostly Amazon and maybe has one other channel. They might have a Shopify store. They may be Walmart, but it's really going to be the Amazon folks. The ones that want the enterprise level and the open API is they're probably, the $100 million seller that wants like reverb. And they don't offer reverb, and so they're going to give you that. It's a volume, because I think it's probably volume pricing based on.
There's got to be a licensing fee thing here, or a scalability thing here, and it's just not on these charts. My point was, from a functionality standpoint, they're basically the same. Yep. I'm sorry, Sam. I got caught up on that one. Please.
No. Great point. I think that's a great observation, by the way. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So let's look at some of the reviews. Okay. So here they are saying there is no selecting average FIFO, LIFO, etc. methods. Currently, we have to extract data ourselves. And now, again, if you are doing the inventory in your Zentail, you are going to struggle. So please don't expect LIFO and FIFO, because it is not really designed for that. You are, and this is where you should, it's not designed for inventory. If you try to utilize it for that, even the basic business, they are probably going to be utilizing a lot of different inventory functionality. So this is where your challenge is going to be. It's not designed for that. Zentail has helped us utilize multiple commerce channels while controlling most, if not all, data from single platform. This is massive. This is wonderful. This is what their play is. Here they are saying would like to have better pricing manager, would like the ability to move pictures around in different order. Now, this is the key PIM functionality that I would like to see. Okay, that people are not getting, and they are giving a lot of operational functionality, which people don't need. So this is where I guess they should be shining, that, this is your channel control platform. Give me those, when you are going to be editing the images, maybe their assumption is you are probably going to be using Photoshop to be able to crop, and once all that is done, then you are going to upload this in this platform. That's probably their assumption, but maybe the customers are probably expecting a lot more. So here they are saying move pictures around in different order, and even that is not there. So build that. I guess I would like to see that in a PIM platform, because that's a key functionality for PIM. Now, would like to have a cropping. That's probably, even if you try to build that you are not going to get the experience that you are going to get in a tool that is really designed for that, to be honest. So it could be a massive lift, and most companies will have a designer. They'll probably do that, and that could be the reason why they don't really have the cropping, image contrast, brightness tool. And it says if user puts an image as the main image, then decides to change or move it to, or take image 2 and move to image 3, you must delete the images and start over. Again, in my experience, I think those features should be there in the platform, but they don't seem to have that. And again, would like to see Zentail integrate with ShipRush. So if they are using this as the WMS platform, but obviously you are not going to have all the bells and whistles of the shipping platform, so now you need to care for the integration with ShipRush, and you are going to struggle with that.
Well, I think right there, so they're asking for ShipRush, but when you go take a look at their integration partners, they list a ton of shipping partners. So it's just a matter of they probably just didn't add them, because they have Ship Simply, they've got Desktop Shipper, they've got ShipStation, ShipWorks, ShipWire, so ShipRush. So they've got a few, but there's new ones popping up every day. In the SaaS environment, so I think it's kind of hard for everybody to keep on top of that.
Yeah. Any other comments, guys? Okay, so here they are saying Zentail has been game changer for our inventory management as a reseller selling on multiple sales channels. Well, first, they are saying game changer for inventory management. Then they are saying as a reseller selling on multiple sales channels, Amazon, Walmart, etc. We have had problems in the past with keeping track of inventory. But again, I think he is talking about the channel-specific inventory. There's a difference between inventory management versus your channel-specific inventory management. So for an e-commerce shop that is selling on multiple channels, it's definitely hard to keep track of all of that inventory. But in this particular case, I think they are talking about the keeping track of the inventory across those channels. And then we have had problems with that. And then keeping certain brands off unauthorized sales channels. Again, key piece of functionality for the multi-channel listing platform. Keeping content, consistent across channels. That's a big plus for platforms like Zentail. Not anymore. That's why they are liking Zentail. The website is not responsive, mobile friendly, which I doubt, because the UI looks really good. And so I don't know why the user has claimed that, to be honest. That doesn't seem to be true. Let's analyze some more comments here. So we have the override ability is quite limited. Now, that would be my concern, because, when you are a multi-listing platform, you probably should provide a lot more override ability. We had problem with Jet that didn't let us publish our own 1-year warranty as a bullet point. Now, again, these are the nuances that you are going to be asking when you are managing marketing across the channels. These are the key pieces of functionality that you should have as the multi-channel listing platform, as opposed to focusing on the operational aspect of the problem. Tool has very vague warning errors that require a constant back and forth with support teams. Again, that's not really related to the product. I didn't really understand many of the issues because the errors were in developer gibberish. That could be applicable to a lot of different platforms. So I'm not going to call them out on that.
Well, this one in particular, this is from 4 years ago, and them mentioning Jet doesn't exist anymore. So I'm not sure. I would think that they've probably iterated past the issues they've experienced at this point.
Agreed. Just one more. And okay, so this is coming from a current channel advisor client. Many redundant tasks and a lot of complex back and business rule mappings currently needed in the channel advisor. I'm not too sure what the issue is there. and then they are saying, but for some customers that may perform highly on odd marketplaces such as New Egg, Shop, and you're consistently missing these. So yeah, so overall, I guess we can open up for the conversation now. That's it for the presentation.
Yeah, on their website they talk about the less need of configuration, and that last one compared to Channel Advisor was talking about more configuration. I think it'll be interesting when we do Channel Advisor in a couple weeks just to challenge that from the other side. Is that actually true? Because that's not that. I did not have that experience in my experience with Channel Advisor, for example. So I'd be interested to see if it's true. But these guys say it on their website: less configuration, it's easier. Almost like no code conversation, but they don't use the word.
Less does not mean anything. Again, I think I'm looking for the degree, right?
But it's the first thing they say on their website. It's the first thing they want you to know about them, is that you don't have to configure this thing. Yeah.
And that's a big deal so earlier on you had mentioned the auto configuration of categories from AI, and each one of these marketplaces has a different category structure that is just mind-numbingly bad. And trying to figure out where your product is supposed to fit in eBay versus Amazon versus Newegg versus Walmart. What if you want it in multiple categories, and trying to get that kind of override. And so it seems as though they allow that. They actually support that and help you do it.
So that's a very interesting point, and thank you so much for bringing that, because I didn't see that. That's a real pain, right? That's a real pain for a lot of people, and that's what I would expect in any PIM, because that should not reside in any other systems. That should reside in either PIM or e-commerce, right? That's where it belongs. So I didn't see that in the screen. So when I was, let's say, structuring these SKUs, you should have some way of configuring these category algorithms, how it is going to be appearing on Amazon, eBay. I didn't see that. I don't know if you guys could catch that.
Yeah, it didn't come up in the slides here. I didn't see it on their website, but like you say, I'm surprised it's not there, because it's a huge pain point, to Robert's point. So what is it? Is it a multi-channel management platform? Is it a PIM? Is it a warehouse management system? I mean, is it door number 4? What do we got here? I think it's a multi-channel, a really strong multi-channel management platform with some pretty good PIM functionality added to it. That's what it looks like to me. And then maybe there's some warehouse stuff there, and we debated that for an hour, so I'm not going to relitigate that, but it certainly is the first two, right?
Yeah, and so I agree with that. I think, we have not been able to identify with any of the systems that we've talked about yet where they fit in terms of annual sales and volume, and so we can help viewers understand what is the appropriate step for them. If you're on Excel sheets, any of these systems are going to help. But if you're past that, if you're on system A, what is your next system growth to? And that, I think that's something that we need to work on.
Yeah, it's complicated, and it's ever moving, because these guys are constantly changing functionality. But for sure your clients are trying to figure that out.
Yep. And it's not a one size fits all, because each client's going to have a different growth curve, a different strategy.
But Sam, I think it's in some of the core functionality, it's really, really got some good stuff. I mean, some of this was really great. And there's public information on its size. It's a relatively small startup, getting going company, and they've built some pretty great stuff here to get started. And like you say, they're known. They're coming up pretty fast here.
Robert?
No, I agree. I mean, I have nothing else to add on that. It's, for small to lower end, medium-sized companies, I think this is a great tool for you to use. If you are the $100 million and above, then you're probably looking at an ERP system, and that's a different consideration.
So that's my problem overall. If you are comparing it with ERP, it's not a fair comparison in my mind. Okay.
Yeah.
So even if you're looking at $100 million company, they can use this platform very well for the PIM functionality, because not a lot of $100 million companies actually have PIM. Okay. So again, if you stay in your lane, that I am really the multi-channel management platform, even for multi-channel management, it's a really hard thing. So even bigger companies might be able to use this. But again, you need to see but you can't have $100 million company using it for the warehouse management. I don't know how I would feel with that.
But these systems absolutely are useful to a $1 billion company in commerce as their multi-channel front end platform, because they need something there. And then probably at that point, when they get 100, 200, depending on the business model, at some point in time, they're probably going to go best in class on the PIM versus have this where it's a bolt-on PIM. But I think that's another question. You'd almost have to do a different comparison on that.
Yeah, and you are probably going to confuse the hell out of them, because now they are thinking, you got some warehouse and some multi-channel. I am looking for multi-channel. Give me really, really good multi-channel. Where is that?
and that's the key thing, right? So if you're looking for multi-channel, when you go out shopping, you have to have your list. You actually have to know, okay, these are the channels that I'm on. This is my growth path. These are the channels that I want to add. Does this tool support that or not? And if it doesn't support it, what would it take for it to support it? Does it have an open API like they say that they do, or not? Because if they don't support the channels that you need, that means manual effort for you. Is that something you want to do?
Yeah, great point.
All right, guys, I can take some more short comments and then we need to wrap.
No, I think that's what I had to say. I thought this was a good one tonight, Sam. I thought we covered a lot of ground, and they do put good information out there for us to see, which is really, really helpful. I just encourage all these software companies, put your stuff out there, man. If you're great, everybody will notice.
And be transparent and honest about your evaluation as opposed to overselling.
Yeah, that's helpful. It never ends well.
Okay, love it, guys. And I guess, in conclusion, I would say that if you're looking for the multi-channel management platform and a little bit of PIM, I think this is a great play overall. And that this could really add a lot of value to your architecture. Again, if you're a small shop looking for all of that functionality, it's a great platform. And that's it for today's session. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our e-commerce series, for which we meet every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We pick one vendor or solution that we review independently. So make sure you are going to be here next week. We'll be back with another vendor or the solution. On that note, thank you everybody for your time and insights tonight.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks,